What up, kids? Back, man, back. It's good to be back. Got the boys back together, and I'm back from surgery. Damon is no longer lonely. This is fantastic, man. Fight Society podcast. Matt Brown is with us. Damon Martin, of course. I'm Jeremy Loper. Welcome back, guys.
Back in the OH with Matt Brown.
That's right, I.O.
Damon's still lonely.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm just lonely over here sulking in my victory after Lomachenko beat Rigondeaux, and it's like the eighth fight. It's like the eighth fight in a row I picked against you, and you just keep.
It was like 2, now it's like 6. Now it's like
We'll just keep jacking up the number.
So you guys talked about this last week a little bit, like made like some kind of like pseudo bet or something.
Not really pseudo bet, more of just like a bragging rights.
Oh,
bragging rights.
All right. Matt's over here munching down. What are you munching on? Like, is that a Gatorade Power Bar? What the hell is that?
Yeah, it's just a whey protein bar.
One of my interns went over there and you said just buy me an awesome protein bar, and they didn't.
I said it surprised me.
Are you surprised? You seem surprised.
Are you surprised?
Very surprised.
Very surprised. All right, you got to get closer to the microphone. I think it sounds like you're in another room.
I don't want to hear you guys hear me chewing either.
Oh, okay, I see.
I was trying to get this thing down.
What are you trying to be courteous? Try to be courteous on the podcast, man. Well, this is the first time we've all been back together, certainly since the big victory down in Virginia Beach. I went down there with you. A bunch of our friends went down. Your family went down, and it was awesome. We were missing Damon, but there was a ton of support that came from Ohio, that came from some of the surrounding states. I didn't really know what the fights were going to be like there in Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. The UFC, I think that was the first time they'd ever been there before.
Yeah,
in Norfolk. Yeah,
yeah, and it was
Have they been around there in Virginia at all?
They did one in George Mason University when Dustin Poirier fought the Korean Zombie a few years ago.
Okay,
they did one there in George Mason, which is like there, and so yeah, they've done a couple. I think they did 2 shows there. But this is the first one they've done in Virginia Beach, because I remember when we looked it up, I was like, this is way farther away than I imagined it being. Like, it didn't...
I took 2 days to drive there from Ohio, man. I stopped at this killer casino over in Maryland.
Oh, yeah.
And, it was like a little quiet spot. Dude, I won $1,200.
Yeah, my last trip to Virginia down there, when I drove down for Poirier and Korean Zombie, I left the night of the fights at like 3 a.m. to drive back, and I got stuck in like the fog in Maryland, and it was literally one of the scariest drives I've ever had in my entire life. Like, I could not, thank God there was a van in front of me so I could see their brake lights. So I followed them all the way into West Virginia, and then finally the fog started to lift.
Yeah.
Because if they hadn't been in front of me, I would have literally been driving blind. Like, it was the scariest drive I've ever had.
So if they drove off a cliff, you've been right behind them.
I was right behind them.
Well, this seems like a drive! We got an Uber, of course, to the fights, right? Because we were out in the crowd this time around. Because if we go to the fights with Matt usually and he's not fighting, we'll go with him on the fighter bus. But so we went on the Uber, and simple ride. We were actually staying on Virginia Beach, so it was probably like 45 minutes inland to Norfolk, to the actual arena. And we get there, and man, I got to be honest, dude. There was just a ton of people, but we shared an Uber with Anthony Pettis' manager. Money manager, an
financial advisor,
an accountant, yeah, financial advisor, same, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So this guy was totally cool, totally awesome guy, right? We get to the fights, we're sitting directly behind Dustin Poirier's family. So now, and the guy that is Anthony's business manager is like just another row over to the side, and throughout the fights, he's looking over. Throw me to hang loose, you know what I mean? Because we're bros, we know each other, we rode together, you know what I mean? We have riding previous experience together, but now I'm also becoming friendly with Dustin Poirier's family because my wife is from New Orleans, and he's from down there. So all of a sudden, they just have all this stuff in common. So now I'm stuck because once that fight starts, no matter who wins, I got to stay neutral. So Randy starts buddying up a little bit more with, my wife starts buddying up more with Dustin Poirier's family. And so, everybody knows how the fight played out. So she's in a full-on cheer. Guess who looks over? At the worst moment possible. Oh, yeah, the guy we rode with, Anthony Pettis' business manager, looks over, and Randy's just in a full-on celebration. I'm just sitting there just oh, no, it's just 50-50. Talking about me, 50-50 right now, guys. Not favoring anybody. One of the weirdest things ever. You know what I'm saying? Because like where you find yourself in those situations, everyone's family and friends and everyone's like right there. You know, it's a one of a kind sporting experience that, you know, that's for sure. Being down there, man, I'm telling you, like your walkout this time around, like when the music hit, I'm so glad that they put all that stuff behind them with the I Am the Immortal and, you know, with the Hatebreed thing and, you know, Jamie. But, like, it is hands down the best walkout music, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, when that hits, people know, man.
It's weird. I know the UFC has censored a lot of songs before, but I saw Angela Hill was talking, like, she's, like, had, like, 10 songs of hers they've turned down to walk out to, like metal songs. You know
really?
I mean? Like Amon Amarth and like a bunch of bands that like she
just
tried to.
Because they don't know who it is, that's why, right?
It's just like.
Yeah.
Oh, Angel Hill's down with Amon Amarth?
Yeah.
You got like new level of respect. Like, when you see her, you're like, I didn't know.
I just would never guess, especially her.
Yeah.
Just her personality doesn't come across.
No, she's
that
a
way.
big metalhead.
Nice.
Big metalhead. She's an artist too, so.
Really?
Yeah, she's a pretty good artist, so. But yeah,
as in like a singer? Or?
No, like art, like drawing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like drawing.
That's kind of
so.
He's not a musical artist.
Yeah, but she was talking about that, and then I saw Josh Barnett weighed in, because like when he first came back to the UFC.
Oh, yeah, he trains her. Right?
No. Angela Hill's in San Diego. She's with Alliance.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he just trains.
He trains a
bunch of
girl
females,
though, right?
He does. He trains Shayna Baszler,
Baszler,
Jessamine Duke, some of those girls. But yeah, he was talking about when he first came back to the UFC, they tried to tell him he couldn't walk out to Bolt Thrower, which is like his walkout song. And he just like basically was like, okay, either you can play Bolt Thrower or I just walk out in silence. And so they caved and gave him Bolt Thrower.
That's a move. Wouldn't that be a move, huh?
Remember Tamden McCoy? He came out to Demue Borger that one time. I was like, you guys not going to let me do Hatebreed, but he's over here with fucking Demue Borger?
I love that that's like the arguments like backstage at the UFC. You know what I mean? It's like, Dana, I can't believe you let him do... But it's not like that as much anymore. I feel like it's not as punk rock as it used to be. It's a little more hollow. Like since the new company took over, it's a little more business like I should say.
More corporate.
Yeah.
They've turned down a bunch of my walkout songs before.
Yeah,
because before I didn't have a consistent song. I just pick whatever was driving me at that time.
Right.
And I still kind of do that sometimes. I always think about it, but I'm like, wait, I got a song written for me by one of my fucking favorite artists of all time,
and huge fight fan.
Yeah,
Jamie
like,
Jost,
how can I not walk out to that? It's like a dream come true.
No,
you can't not walk out to that. But I remember they turned down Slayer one time. I wanted Skeletons of Society.
Yes.
I had one. Gosh, I can't remember what it was, but I don't know, man. It's strange how they do that, but now it's he says corporate, man.
I think it'd be hilarious if your new role in the UFC was music director.
I'd love to.
I'd love to. Yeah. He just accepted the job. Nobody offered it. Matt just accepted the job. So here's your job. You got all the fighters have to come to you and talk about music. Like, all right, so what are you going to walk out to, brother? I was thinking Pitbull. Fuck you. What about you, man? We just shoot people down until it's excellent music.
Everybody wants to do hip hop, though. I don't know if I fit in that job. Another fucking hip hop song.
But no, you have to get like the good hip hop. You got to find something like Gravediggers or something amazing.
There's a lot of great hip hop, and I love hip hop, but
so we're gonna weed out the crap.
There's far too much Drake going on at UFC events.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's go back to Lomachenko. That fight with Brandao was, it's kind of crazy, man. Like to see this on ESPN, the way it played out, the way that the media, I thought the lack of coverage before the fight was weird, and then the amount of coverage after the fight, it was like they just found out that those dudes were fighting like in the middle of the street, and they're like, hey, by the way, what's going on over here?
Here's the thing with that fight. Lomachenko-Rigondeaux was kind of like... I'm trying to compare it to something in the UFC. It's kind of like...
gosh, there's no way.
Well, no, it's kind of... No, I'm not saying like skill level. I'm saying like the hardcores appreciate it. But neither of those guys are like Mayweather level of popularity. You know what I mean? That's like a hardcore fight fan. It was like UFC was a UFC 211.
Kind of like him and Diego Sanchez, to be honest with you. People are like, these
it's like when
Stipe,
that card with UFC was a UFC 211 when Stipe fought Dos Santos, and you had Maya against Masvidal, and you had Joanna against Jessica Andrade. Like, we're all like, oh my God, like fight fans.
It'd be like Maya versus Jacare.
Yeah.
Before either one of them ever tried to strike, right?
Yeah, it's like Maya versus Jacare. Like, we'd all be geeking out to see it, but then like it would do 100,000 pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the casual audience, and that's where Lomachenko, Like everyone,
we
raves
just want to
about-
see the two grapple.
We rave about Lomachenko, but we always have to remember, and I always remind people, we live inside the MMA bubble or the boxing bubble, the combat sports bubble. You know what I mean? Like when you go to ESPN.com, their number one story typically isn't a boxing story. It's NFL. It's, basketball.
My jam's not on the front page ever.
Yeah. So we have to remind ourselves sometimes, like, we do live in a bit of a bubble. So, like, we all were, like, geeking out hardcore about Lomachenko and Rigondeaux, but, like, the casual
I get the
audience,
feeling that, especially with them putting this on ESPN, a big fight night, that they see the potential that boxing has kind of missed out on with what the UFC has done. They see that the boxing has just missed the boat on promoting guys right and putting on the right production. And there's so much that they've been fucking up for so long because they've stuck to this traditional platform for years, and they're just not getting away from it. And now I think, especially ESPN with their ratings just dying. I mean, gosh, does anybody watch ESPN anymore?
Yeah.
But they're still making gigantic mistakes. Like I said, bringing in Stephen A. Smith, this fucking douchebag.
I was saying on Saturday, I was like,
guy's just
I can't take this guy.
I was like, I guarantee if the UFC re-ups with Fox for their new TV deal, I was like, you're gonna have Skip Bayless is gonna be the new analyst on Fox Cards.
Yeah, it's crazy because
and they love it. They tell me that they love it when I call him a douchebag too, right?
Oh, they love it because that's all they are. Trolls.
You got the mainstream guys that are like, oh, Stephen A. Smith said this, and or Skip Bayless thinks this, and then you got the people that actually know that he's a fucker, fuck him, he's a douchebag. So now you have this disparity, which creates more social media, which creates more talk. Which
Here's the thing with like the Stephen A. Smiths and the Skip Baylesses of the world. Like they say, it's like that article. Did you guys hear about this article that came out after UFC 218, that guy from the Detroit Free Press? Did you hear about this guy? Like he said it was like a terrible show. There were no good fights.
Oh, I did hear about that.
And I was just like, and I put out a tweet and I said, you realize when guys like that say this, one of two things is happening. Either A, he's uneducated.
Right.
And he doesn't understand the sport. Or two, he's a troll and he's trying to get you to click on his article and get pissed off. That's all he's doing. That's what Skip Bayless has done for years. Do I really believe some of the stuff that Skip Bayless says? No, he says it to get a reaction from you. And so it's the same thing with Stephen A. Smith.
But it's funny because a guy like the Detroit Free Press guy, he gets that reaction once and then he's forgotten about.
Yeah.
Skip Bayless somehow has built his career on this.
Yeah,
and we're still like playing into his
And he
bullshit.
not only built his career, but like, he had his partner, Skip Bayless, and then now Stephen A. Smith stayed at ESPN. Skip makes more money probably at Fox.
I think Shannon Sharp was a guy you were thinking about earlier. When he of course,
because we're talking off the air. Yeah, and I said
he's brilliant
Michael
about
Strahan.
football. He knows everything about football.
I
Yeah,
did
you were thinking
mean
Shannon Sharp, and you said Strahan.
Because it was just leading up to the Conor and Floyd Mayweather fight. I feel like any athlete that played football or basketball that had Floyd Mayweather's back, all of a sudden listen to like two people do their breakdown of the fight, and then they just regurgitated that information for 2-3 months. And as a fight fan and somebody in the know, it annoys you.
Well, what I hate is
it's fake, man.
when all of a sudden you have an opinion. You don't have an opinion on Lomachenko, Rigondeaux. You don't have an opinion on Mikey Garcia or who else is great these days? I mean, there's 1,000 great fighters. I follow boxing, very intensely. I mean, there's a million good guys.
You more than anybody else I know that follow boxing.
Yeah, and like, now there's a big fight, and suddenly your opinion means something. But what's your opinion on Mikey Garcia? What's your opinion on Lomachenko? When he was 2-0 or 1-0, and then fought in a world title in his second fight and lost. He probably would have talked shit about him then, right? Because he lost his second fight and no good, right? So these guys, I don't try to come in and talk about football after
exactly.
I watch one football game a year.
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I watch one football game a year. I'll watch Ohio State.
Yeah.
If they do really well, like I don't even know how. I think they missed the playoffs this year, right?
Yeah. But it's like the thing with combat sports is, there are certain sports that are big, but not big enough to where you can just understand them by watching them enough. Like, I think you got to be like, I think soccer is one, to know the rules, to know like what's going on, the fouls, the penalties, like things like that, the time. I know it sounds dumb, but like if you don't watch soccer and you turn on a soccer match,
you're going to be lost.
You need a specialized person to talk about soccer. NASCAR is another one where it's a very specialized sport where like yes, I understand the concept of a race.
Right.
But you don't understand drafting and, pit stops and like all the things that go into it. And mixed martial arts and boxing.
And the teams, too. It's like the teams in NASCAR, people don't get it. Like, what do you mean there's teams?
Yeah,
like,
so it's like there's certain
or like
sports.
the chase.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like
now,
I remember when I got hired at Fox before they pivoted to video.
Yep.
One of the reasons they hired me was because with the UFC being on Fox now, is they needed specialized people to write about it, because you can't just hire any. MMA is such a specific sport. You can't just hire anybody that knows sports and expect them to understand mixed martial arts or understand how to interview a fighter. I'm comfortable. I've interviewed a lot of boxers. I've interviewed a lot of mixed martial artists, and I've done entertainment interviews through Nerdcore Movement. But if you said, hey, go interview, LeBron James, now I would be excited to interview LeBron James because he's an amazing basketball player, but I don't know every nuance of basketball. So I wouldn't be the guy you'd want interviewing him, because I know the broad overview, but I don't know the game to that kind of intricacy. But
I would love to talk to him for an hour about everything except for basketball.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you
that's
have
a
to,
great point. Yeah.
Like for certain sports, you have, like if somebody said to you right now, Matt, I'm going to throw you in and you got to commentate a NASCAR race, you would be lost.
I watch more NASCAR than you realize, Damon.
I would be lost. They're turning left
Either
again. What's going on?
Yeah, golf, tennis. So I've actually driven a NASCAR. It's fucking cool.
Okay,
Oh,
have a
did
whole
you do the Richard Petty experience?
Yeah, man. You have a whole new respect
Okay,
for
so
NASCAR.
golf. If they say you're going to commentate golf right now,
I would be completely lost.
that's what I'm saying. That's where the Stephen A. Smith,
I'd be like, yeah, you hit the ball like I did at Top Golf that one time when I was drunk.
You'd be like, oh, Matt, could you just be a little quieter when you tell us about the time you're...
like I understand, like Stephen A. Smith, maybe he knows a lot about basketball, football, whatever, Skip Bayless, whatever, that's their sports. Fine. But when you try to cross over to MMA, you have to be more educated on it.
Totally.
You have to
and that's
be. You
where these
can't-
guys are going to fall short all the time.
Well, that's why there's so much, you're talking about it, there's so much criticism, but that's what I said. Like when the commentary, I just turned it down. I couldn't take it.
They
Like,
need
I
to
was
just get ESPN's guys Chael. If you don't have Chael available, then you don't need to cover the event. I mean, like you don't send your basketball guy out to cover Yahtzee. Come on, let's be serious. This weekend there was a bunch of fights, obviously, and the UFC was going head to head with ESPN against boxing, and Bellator was on too, right?
Yeah, Bellator got the lowest ratings in history on Spike this weekend.
Whoa.
Like 300,000
So,
viewers.
what was that card?
Did they show the kickboxing?
No, that was the middleweight title fight, Carvalho against Alessio Sakari. It was the tape delayed.
Right, but I know the kickboxing
Yeah.
was on the undercard.
I think so.
And I don't know what they're doing with that mess with them not showing it live.
Yeah.
And, a week later. I mean, I tried to, my buddy Kevin Ross, I was wanting to watch his fight and had to watch it a week later last time.
That's weird.
I think he fought last weekend also, but Joe Schilling fought, and I know the results, but I don't get Spike, and I've been out of town, but it's ridiculous. Why?
It is ridiculous.
Who came up with this idea?
Somebody that doesn't understand TV anymore.
Oh, no. We could just delay it. They didn't see it, so they're not going to know what the internet. What do you mean?
I remember, I'll never forget, when I wasn't doing this full time, I remember when Crow Cop fought Gabriel Gonzaga in England.
Sure.
And it was tape delayed. They didn't show it live. They showed it that evening. And the only way you got the results early was through, Twitter, social media, people
Which
that were
we
there.
all did.
Yeah.
And I remember I was working that Saturday at my old job, and I avoided everything that entire day. I was like, I want to be surprised. I want to know, I want to watch it fresh. And I think I was on my way home, and somebody texted me, and they're like, "Did you hear about Gonzaga knocking out?" I was like, "You mother!" I was like, "I avoided this all day."
Like Jim Ross called you.
By God! But that's the point. It's unrealistic. It's unrealistic in 2017 to imagine you're not going to hear these results, or that people aren't going to care that it's 7 hours tape delayed.
You got to do this insane, crazy thing. Turn your phone off.
Yeah, I know.
It's fucking nuts, but
Well, no, that one wasn't. That was the thing, though. That was at a point where I had not looked online. I basically shut my phone off, and somebody literally texted me the results. I couldn't avoid. That was one of those
right.
You know what I mean? I did nothing to seek it out. Or I can't complain if I go on Twitter.
Best friend texted you.
Yeah, somebody
texted me.
me.
What he wants.
They're like, did you see? I was like, of course, of course I didn't. Of course I didn't get to see.
What'd you guys think of I mean, I thought it was a great fight. Ortega taking on Cub Swanson. I mean, Cub Swanson is one of the most dangerous guys, period, in the UFC. Ultra experienced, just a brawler. But when he gets in there, he's so technical too, man. I call him a brawler, but I mean, he loves to be in there, mixing it up in the clinch, and then he'll step back and he will throw one of the most beautiful roundhouse kicks to your face that you've ever seen. It's pretty amazing to watch him fight.
It reminds me, I call him a technical brawler. It reminds me a little bit of
Matt,
the old Immortal over here. You know what I mean? Like, you don't mind getting in a brawl, but you're also very technical with it. Technical brawler. I think that's a compliment. I don't mean that as like I think that's a compliment. Like Cub Swanson, like certain guys, you can do. I think Robbie Lawler is a technical brawler. Like, he can get in the same kind of like those kind of moments where he's really technical at moments. That he doesn't mind
Robbie
getting dirty.
Specifically, I fought him, so I got a first-hand view. He looks, he's a lot more technical than he looks. He looks like he's brawling. He's doing a lot of small techniques. So he probably brought my level of fighting up more than anybody else I've ever fought.
That's cool.
Yeah, I give him that compliment a lot. His IQ in the ring, I didn't give him any credit for, because doing interviews and stuff with him, I'm sitting here. We did a whole media tour together, and we're talking, answering these questions. He doesn't have any answers. He doesn't speak. I don't know if he doesn't speak well, or you're just not interested in it, or what it is exactly. But I thought, man, this guy, like, I'm going to be so much smarter than him. I'm just going to fucking, this would be a good fight for me.
That's interesting. That so even on that level, when you are sitting next to a guy and you're analyzing his intelligence before the fight, and you're thinking
absolutely.
like, wow, so in the cage, I'm going to be superior in intelligence to this guy.
Absolutely. I mean, especially when you're doing a media tour like we did. I think we did like 8 hours straight.
That's crazy.
Where we were
man.
next to each other the entire day. I mean, I'm analyzing every little thing about him, watching what he eats and watching what he drinks, if he's chewing gum, I mean, how his eyes look, how he walks, if his posture's right, what kind of exercises he should be doing. I mean, literally everything I can. And maybe that was also one of the issues, too. Maybe I overanalyzed a little bit, where Robbie's just kind of like, fuck it. Like, he was eating a hamburger, and
He's like, fucking eat a hamburger.
And like, he's
like,
not
watch, I'm going to freak Matt out. Matt's watching right now. Double cheeseburger.
Yeah, dude, that's exactly it. He had burger and fries. I'm like, man, I need a salmon, broccoli. And,
What's he walk at? What's he walk at? Burger and fries.
Well, pretty simple. Pretty similar, I think. I'm not totally sure. I would guess probably 190 to 195.
And he used to fight at middleweight, so
yeah. So I would guess we're very comparable in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I'm comparing, analyzing everything, and I don't think he was analyzing anything. I think he's just like, whatever, we're going to go fight, and I want any edge I can, and that's my personality versus his is different personalities, and it turned out to be a great fight that way. But his IQ when we stepped in there and fought was the highest IQ I feel like I've ever felt in a fight.
That's interesting.
Robbie,
it's cool to know too.
It's you say that about Robbie at the interviews. I've interviewed Robbie at least a dozen times, maybe 24 times throughout the course of his career. Turn on the camera, turn on the microphone. You might get 6 words out of him edgewise.
Yeah,
like
you know what you're going to
words.
get before you interview.
But
him,
I'll never forget Louisville, Kentucky, when Diego Sanchez fought Martin Campman down there, and I think it was Mark Munoz and CB Dalloway. You remember that card? It was like the one card they had in Louisville. Yeah. I was down there, and it was a small card, so there wasn't a ton of people there. So all the fighters, everyone was at one hotel, and you know how everyone ends up at the fighter hotel bar. So I'm down there hanging out with Ryan Bader, just talking to his manager, just shooting the shit, hanging out. And Robbie's down there. And I had never, in all the years I've covered this sport, never really been in a social situation with Robbie. The most talkative, funny, well-spoken dude. And he was like, smiling, laughing, joking with me, messing around. And I was just like, it's just the dude hates doing interviews. Like,
But there are a lot of media people that ask like insane questions, try to hit me up a little bit.
You can ask Robbie. Robbie just doesn't. It's just not him. It's just not his personality. In that moment, I was just like, "Holy crap, dude! Like, this is like he's funny, well spoken, real intelligent." But like, as soon as that microphone goes on. Outside of that one interview, which unfortunately was before his fight with Tyron Woodley, where he had that Conor McGregor line. Do you guys remember that? Where the guy asked him, he's like, so what did you think about, Conor McGregor coming down here? And Robbie's like, wouldn't have been a good move for him. And the guy goes, why? And he's like, cause what do you say? He's like, I wouldn't have stopped.
I'll take his soul.
Yeah, I wouldn't have stopped. I wouldn't have stopped until it was over or something. He's like, what? He's like, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have done what Diaz did. I wouldn't have taken his neck. And he goes, what would you have taken? He's like, his soul. Literally like the Grim Reaper.
The interviewer kind of stepped back and said, oh, this is who I'm talking to.
The look on Robbie's face, he was just like, his soul.
Well, it's easy to forget that you're talking to certified killers. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy, man. Like, but in all seriousness, man, Robbie Lawler, it was scary, man. I barely got off that set alive that time I beat his ass in Jeopardy. I mean, Alex Trebek barely got me in the town car. I mean, it was just really close. Really close. We have to kind of address, the UFC. I want to go back to Brian Ortega and Cub Swanson. I mean, like, you talk about a guy who has possibly the best jiu-jitsu that's not Brazilian in the UFC.
Ortega?
Yeah, and Brian Ortega. And basically forced that submission onto Cub Swanson. I mean, he jumped the submission, and he's physically, I mean, I don't know how you guys felt, but you think Brian Ortega looked like a weight class larger than Cub Swanson at times, right?
He's just a big kid.
He's just a big guy, right?
But the way he readjusted for that guillotine choke.
Like his hand.
That's high level. I know it's a guillotine choke, and guillotine chokes, people make it seem like it's a more simple submission. But he jumped into the guard.
I did not think he was going to be
and
able to
he
hold on to
readjusted his arms mid-choke.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
Well, that's a guy that knows exactly how, he's going in for that. He's doing that in practice, right?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say guillotine. I know what you're saying, where the mainstream, the Stephen A. Smiths watching it, probably look at it as a simple submission, and it's one of the most difficult submissions there is because it's so simple.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it so difficult. Everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows the defense, and if you defend it properly right away, it's a very, very difficult choke to get. But then there's those guys that really specialize in it. Obviously, Brian Ortega. Joe Stevenson is a great one. He showed me so many little details about the guillotine this last season, the Ultimate Fighter that I coached with TJ. We're in there coaching, and then after Joe lost his fight, even before he lost his fight, I'm just bugging Joe, poking him every day. Hey, man, why don't you teach me some shit, bro? I was like, I'll teach you all stand-up stuff if you want. And, I mean, he's a vet. There's not a whole lot you're going to show him that he hasn't already seen anyway. But I'm just poking him like, hey, man, teach me some guillotine, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
shit.
And, man, he showed me some details that really changed the way I look at guillotine altogether, the offense and defensively.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Faber's one of those guys who always had that really sick guillotine.
All the Team Alpha males.
Yeah.
He definitely imposed that on everybody.
Benavidez, yeah.
Benavidez landed some sick guillotines.
Man.
Remember that guillotine he had against Tim Elliott?
Where
he had his arms trapped?
I do remember
and he had to
that.
tap his feet to get out of it. Remember that?
Yeah.
Had to tap his feet.
Remember that?
There's a little, especially Ruaya, they do a completely different type of guillotine, too.
Yeah.
It's not really a guillotine, classical guillotine.
Yeah.
What would you call it? Like,
I don't know.
More like a wrestling approach?
There's a name that we use for that. I can't remember, to be honest. It's not one of my things. I should probably do it more often, but
I'll let you see a jump guard and do that a couple times, please.
I will, bro.
You've had some guillotine chokes, submissions, haven't you?
Yeah, Tim Means.
Yeah, that's
right. That was a fucking awesome one. You know what I mean? Because that was
which
was
similar to the Team Alpha Male style, where you're not. It's not like a full guard guillotine or arm in guillotine.
That's
but
what
man,
I'm not getting out of this.
If you've never been stuck in a guillotine choke, it sucks real bad.
Well, there's that moment when you realize. I mean, I don't know how it feels in the UFC, but like in jiu-jitsu, you're fucked. I mean, like that you're like fight now.
It's very the best way, and obviously I'm nowhere near like knowing what it goes like, but that's one thing Cub Swanson said. He's like, in that moment you feel like you're going to die. Like it's the way I would describe it, and see if I'm right about this, Matt. When you get caught in a guillotine, it's like very claustrophobic. You know what I mean? Because your arm, his arm's around your neck, so your head's kind of encased, and so you're kind of cut off. And then when they pull guard, they're like, does that make sense? Like very claustrophobic move.
You're right, because there's so many little details, and a lot of times the fight will be over those little details, right? Because it's hard to just get your head out. But if defended properly, straight away, the guy's just going to have a really hard time. But it's those little details, and once you as a defender lose the details to the offensive guy, I mean, it happens so quick. And you may I think most guys probably don't really they might feel claustrophobic if they're locked in straight away, and then it takes a few seconds. It depends on the type of guillotine too. Where there's a throat choke guillotine, then there's the blood choke guillotine, the carotid artery, and then there's some guys do it a little slower. Some guys will. Joe Stevenson showed me some ways where you can kind of let the guy think that he's getting out, and then it actually puts him in a little deeper. So there's tons of different ways that it comes about, but once that thing is in, it happens so fast. And I mean, you just know it. I mean, and there's so little that you can do about it. But I'm I don't know. Yeah, man. There's a lot to that. That's a long answer to that question. You almost just have to feel it. Like you can't really explain it without feeling it.
Do you think Cub Swanson is close to the end of the road? I mean, like, what do you think, Damon?
No, he's out of contract right now, so they got to rework his deal.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, God, can you imagine if they couldn't work out a deal with Cub Swanson and he went to like a Bellator or something? I mean, like, good luck to everybody in that division.
Cub was in a tough spot because, and I get it, and I understand both sides of the argument. Cub was in a tough spot because he lost to Holloway 2 years ago.
Right.
It wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? It was like 5 fights ago for each of them. You know what I mean? And he got, no offense, but he got dominated and he got choked out. I mean, that's just the way. That was that was like Max's coming out party kind of. It's like that's when we kind of went from Max as a prospect to Max as like a legit threat.
Sure.
And then and then I know it was several years ago, but he had that like 8-second knockout to Aldo, where Aldo flew across the ring and kneed him and knocked him out, and it was over.
Right.
I understand the argument that you're like Cub, and then like he had his chance when he fought Frankie Edgar. If he would have beaten Frankie, he would have gotten that title shot, and then Frankie just mauled him. Remember that fight down in Austin? Mauled him. So it's like he's just come so close so many times, and he just hasn't. You think this time maybe he'll, maybe there's a chance if he beats Brian Ortega, maybe he could leapfrog Frankie, maybe. And and now we know Brian's not going to leapfrog Frankie, which I think is the right.
So he's going to fight Frankie.
No.
So what's Brian Ortega's next fight? You think?
I'd like to see him fight the Korean Zombie. That's the one I'd like to see.
What do you think about that, Matt?
Yeah,
I feel like it's a step down for him, no?
Well, here's the thing. The guy, outside of that, here's the thing. The reason why
available.
Well, the reason I say that is because Lamas is fighting this weekend against Josh Emmett. Tough fight, but not. It was supposed to be Aldo, so obviously not quite the same. Holloway dominated Lamas last year, so we're not going to. So the reason I say the Korean Zombie is if let's say Frankie fights Max early next year, and let's just say hypothetically that Max wins. Now if Frankie wins, it changes everything. Let's just say Max holds on to the title. Do you really want if Lamas fights Ortega? And let's say Lamas wins because Lamas is a beast. You don't just walk past that dude. Is anyone really going to be hyped up to see Lamas Holloway 2 after we just saw that a year and a half ago? Versus the Korean Zombie, who we've never seen, against Holloway. Look what he did to
where's Zombie ranked?
He's like.
Let's see. He is the Korean Zombie. He is 11th.
He's 11th.
Go-Ho Choi. Is that,
no. Chan Sung Jung.
Oh, of course. What am I talking about? Sorry.
Yeah, he's up there. He's pretty high up there. I think.
What was his last fight?
When he beat Dennis Bermudez.
Yeah, here he is. 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
5th or 6th, depending on where you are.
Lower than that.
Okay, so 5th in the UFC, 6th in the MMA rankings. But also in this division, you have Jeremy Stevens, Yair Rodriguez, Dennis Bermudez.
Yeah, Chan Sung Jung is 5th. He's ahead of Ortega. Now Ortega will probably leapfrog him this week. Because Cub was number 4.
Sure,
him and Yair would be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, that would be amazing, right?
You
talk about two guys at the top of their respective games. Because Yair Rodriguez, it was, I hated what he did to. Yeah, but I hated what he did to BJ Penn. That was just not.
Yeah, but I think you got to take a little bit more time with Yair. After what happened with him and Frankie, Frankie just. I understand there's no shame in losing to Frankie Edgar. But I think with a guy like Yair, I think, you give him like a Jeremy Stevens. You give him, a little bit
I'd love to see that fight, too.
A little slower path.
Jeremy has a fight, though, right?
Duho Choice fighting the Korean Superboy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even, like you were saying, with Jeremy Stevens and Ortega, have they fought yet? They haven't
Jeremy
fought.
Stevens and Ortega?
Yeah.
No. But my point being is the reason I say Korean Zombie is because then you get another number 1 contender. You know what I mean? Because
I didn't realize he was ranked that high. It makes sense.
We haven't seen Korean Zombie against Edgar. We haven't seen Ortega versus Edgar, and we haven't seen either of those guys against Holloway.
Edgar's going to get Holloway for sure, right?
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. So, and I think it's deservedly so.
Absolutely.
Did you see Jason Knight fight the other night?
Yeah, dude, that was a weird fight.
That was fucking crazy.
He bit him and like.
I don't know. There was a couple people saying, hey man, if you put your fingers in my mouth, I will bite you. What do you think about that, Matt?
Do you remember when Wes Sims bit Frank Mir back in the day?
That's the first thing I thought of, when I seen it too. I don't know. I didn't get to see the fight, so I'm not sure exactly what happened.
He apologized right after. Yeah. That was the weird part, was he bit him, and then apologized. usually when you bite, you just kind of deny. I would deny anyway, but it was almost like he was in the moment and he was honest about it.
If I remember correctly, in the moment, I think it was they were against the cage and Benitez. He was going for a takedown, and Benitez was like scooping his head to lift him up.
And they said,
and he bit his finger because his finger was like right in his mouth.
Yeah, and Jason Knight was claiming that his fingers were in his mouth.
If you put your fingers in my mouth, I'm probably going to bite too.
I kind of feel like that's the move. I mean, if you're,
I thought
that's illegal.
Maybe
that's hooking,
it was
right?
like, it's illegal too. Yeah, for sure. But I thought that it was maybe like how Kevin Lee bit the glove.
Ooh, yeah.
That was badass, but he bit his own glove.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything like it actually.
But it's just like it was a weird performance because I thought that was one of the fights I was sure that Jason Knight was going to win. Like I was like, that's a lock. If you're asking me a lock on that card,
he takes a lot of damage.
But I mean,
Jason Knight looked beastly
until he lost to Lamas. Until Lamas worked him over earlier this year, which was like obviously a big step up in competition. But before that, he looked amazing.
But he's one of those guys that takes a lot of damage and just keeps going. You know what I mean? Like he's a tough fucking guy.
And then we had
Marlon Moraes,
Aljamain Sterling and Marlon Moraes. Oh man,
yeah. Aljamain is an incredible fighter, but I mean that was one of the most vicious knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
It's funny. We've had in the last 2 months, we've had 3 oh my God knockouts. Yep. We had Matt with Diego, the Hellbow. We had Ngannou on Overeem taking his soul out of his body with that uppercut.
Yeah.
And then we had Moraes and Sterling. Like, those are the kind of knockouts, like, when they happen, you're like, oh my God. And then immediately after, you're like, is he okay? Like, is he?
No, it's fucking cool. Like, in 2 years,
like, the way Diego
it's going to be cool
fell,
to look back,
Like, the way he turned into rubber. Like, when you watch that replay,
totally.
it was like his, I think I wrote it in my recap of your fight. I was like, it's like you pulled his skeleton out of his body. His whole body just turned to rubber, which is scary. And then, like, when Overeem got knocked out, his toes curled.
Yeah, that was hard to see.
You know what I mean? Like, his legs stiffened, you know what I mean? Like, those are those knockouts. And then, like, Aljo, when he went down.
He was out for a while, man.
He was out for several minutes.
Yeah.
And, like, Moraes didn't enjoy his victory in that moment. He was kind of scared.
Yeah, I could see it on his face. And, like, you could see it was all over Matt Serra and Ray Longa. I mean, it was, it was tough, man. Like, anytime that happens to anybody. But that card, I thought, was better than I anticipated it being. Watching those fights on Saturday.
Solid.
Yeah.
You got some good fights this weekend, though. Robbie Lawler and Rafael dos Anjos.
That's the one. What do you think about that, Matt?
Man, I'll tell you what, man. If Robbie's in the right place, man, he's a very, very hard guy to beat. Sometimes I wonder, he's been around for so long, taking, had lots of hard fights. You have to wonder how much his heart and soul is still in it. Dos Anjos has never shown any signs of slowing down, right? So he's going to come right after him, and man, that could turn into a real war, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And Dos Anjos, I didn't really know what to think at 70. I was like, maybe 55. He was the king for a long time.
We see him beat Neal, which was a good win. Matchup wise, I think it was just a very, very good matchup for Dos Anjos. Yeah. I'm not sure. Robbie's definitely not as good of a matchup, so we'll see what happens there.
He beat Safadine, which is a good win. Tarek's a good fighter, but I don't think Tarek is the same fighter he was in Strikeforce. And Tarek's a damn good fighter.
Everybody barely beats Tarek.
Yeah, he's a tough matchup, but he
didn't do anything that lesser guys have already done.
Yeah, and then Neal. I know Neal's your boy, but that was stylistically, it was a good matchup for Dos Anjos.
Yeah, I think just stylistically, I think he's.
And then Lawler, though, not so much. That's what we're going to find out. If Dos Anjos beats Lawler, I'm all in. I'm like, give him the title shot. You know what I mean? Because that's legit.
I'm with you.
Robbie Lawler.
I'm with you. Yeah,
but former champion.
If you're asking me to make a pick, I'm going to go with Robbie Lawler. I mean, that dude, I just can't count.
I'm going to lean with you on Robbie.
He's going to have a big size advantage. Yeah. I was looking at the reach. I think he has like a 4 or 5 inch reach advantage in this fight.
I think the reach and he's going to feel real power at 70 now.
Yeah.
He's going to see the power difference now. Whereas
he was the power at 55.
Exactly. He was at least a powerful guy, and Neal's not going to give him the power that I don't think he even hit him anyway. But he's not a power guy regardless. Tarek probably has the power, but doesn't use it.
Tarek's more of a technique guy.
Yeah, he probably has the power, but he's not going to sit down and bite down his mouthpiece and just swing hard as he fucking can.
Tarek's the guy that's going to pick you apart over 3 rounds. You know what I mean? That's what Tarek does.
Yeah, he's either going to pick you apart or you're going to barely beat him. That's what happens. He barely loses to everybody.
Yeah,
he'd barely lose to the best guy or the worst guy. Yeah. So, but yeah, Robbie's going to bite down his mouthpiece. He's going to swing, and it's very, very rare that a guy is going to fight Robbie Lawler and not get hit by him. So we're going to find out how much that power advantage is going to.
And that grappling's there with Lawler, just like it is with Dos Anjos.
Not like it is with Dos Anjos.
Yeah, that's
There's
one
a
game he
huge
does not want to
advantage.
play.
Yeah, but Robbie's very strong. Again,
he's
that's
American
what,
top team for years. A lot of grappling going on there, of course. So he's no stranger.
No, he's no stranger. I mean, he knows what he's doing, and he's a really, really good with the anti-jiu-jitsu, and that's where he's going to try to stay away from Rafael's game on the ground. He's not going to try to grapple at all with Rafael, no question. But, I mean, he's been there with the best, Jacare and others, and, he's done okay. I think Jacare submitted him, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was doing okay before that. And so, regardless, Rafael, I don't know. We're going to find out how much his power is carried over into 70 in this fight, whether it goes to the ground, because Robbie's going to try to muscle his way back up, or if it stays on the feet, because Robbie's going to fucking hit you.
And Robbie's not easy to get down either.
Not
That's the
all.
thing. You know what I mean? Like when he fought Hendricks, I mean, he's a tough guy to get down. Hendricks at that point.
Yep.
I know Hendricks isn't the same Hendricks since basically he fought you.
It was the last card before USADA.
Yeah. But
looks like Glover Teixeira. Yeah, there's a lot of suspicion on my part about that. On my part, I'm not saying anybody. I'm not going to throw anybody else's opinions, just mine. Glover Teixeira kicking off the main card.
Misha Sirkunov, that's a good fight.
Yeah, so I mean,
big fight.
This could be
Mike Perry and Santiago Ponzinibbio.
A very, very good fight there.
Dude, have you seen the videos with Mike Perry and his chick?
No.
Recently, like he's got some he's doing these vlog type videos. They're kind of funny. You should
Perry's
check them out.
insane.
His chick's hot, but it's just funny some of the stuff that it's kind of a departure away from his kind of thug attitude a little bit. Just check it out.
Perry's grown on me. When Perry first showed up and he had the tattoo on his, I think he had the tattoo on his belly, so the God's gift or whatever. I was like, I don't know about this guy, but I've come around on him. He's a funny dude. I think he's the kind of guy who he doesn't take himself too seriously until it's time to fight, and then he takes it very seriously. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that. But I tell you what, though, everyone's really high on Mike Perry because he's had some nasty knockouts lately. But do not sleep on Ponzinibbio.
No
that
way,
dude is
man.
a beast.
Yeah, I'm definitely picking Ponzinibbio in that fight. He's far more technical.
Well, look at what Alan Jouban did to Mike Perry.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You know what I mean? A technical striker, just he couldn't get him to engage. And Ponzinibbio, and not only is Ponzinibbio a technical striker, he also hits like a freaking truck. Look what he did to Gunnar Nelson. I mean, good Lord. I mean, he just knocked him around.
Are both these guys, they both train at American Top Team, huh?
Who?
Mike Perry and...
No, Mike Perry doesn't train at ATT.
Yeah, he's in Jersey. So.
Yeah. Yeah, Ponzinibbio is at ATT.
Yeah.
So here's my question, Matt, since this is your division. Dana has said this, but I think it's Dana being Dana, that Lawler or Dos Anjos will get the next title shot against Tyron Woodley. Or do you look at Colby Covington? I know it's a name that not everyone likes to mention right now, but Colby's right there as well. And by the way, I meant to tell you this 2 weeks ago on the podcast. I had Tyron Woodley on the podcast about a month ago before you came back, and I think he said that he had ran into you at some show or something, and he was showering you with compliments, after your fight with Diego. He said some real, I want to play it for you sometime. He just said some really great things about you, and he was just I just respect the hell out of that guy. He's a warrior. And he's I know we had some, online beef or whatever, but he's I ran into him, and he's he's just a straight up dude. He's just a straight up dude. No beef with him anymore. But he was really complimentary of you, around that fight, and I just wanted to share that with you because I know you and Tyron had a little bit of a little bit of online beef, but he was very, very complimentary, and he's just you're a straight up warrior, which
Yeah, but fuck his podcast partner Dean Thomas. I got beef. One of my good buddies, man.
Yeah,
Come
nice.
on.
No, that's cool, man. I mean, what I say, he's done great, and he did better than I expected him to. And man, he's fucking knocks some people out. So, he beat Wonder Boy twice, knocked the shit out of Lawler. So, I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. My thing at that time was, mainly I want to see guys fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I believe in fighting.
Yeah.
So. Either way, yeah, it's all over. It is what it is. I respect him. He respects me. So, hopefully one day we can still get in the cage and get it done. But we'll see what happens between
Woodley's.
now and then. I mean,
Woodley's proven himself to be, man. People don't like to give him a lot of respect, but he's proven to be the welterweight champ. But I am curious about
what you need to do is put some respect on his name. Okay.
I think it's going to be interesting with the fight this weekend because Lawler came back. He didn't have the greatest fight against Cowboy. Yeah. Wasn't his best night.
No.
You know what I mean? If
But he
can't-
pulled it off, though.
He did, but if he goes out there and murks Dos Anjos, knocks him out, puts him away, then I'd be on board for Lawler or Woodley too. But if he doesn't, if he wins, but it's
I mean, it's hard to give it to Colby off that wasn't a solid performance against Maia. I mean, he got
got
outstruck by Maia
for a round, but
you got outstruck
still,
by Maia. Period.
But
I mean,
you gotta,
Maia looked like K1 champion in there.
But
man.
you got it. But Colby,
About to give him a black-
but you can't. But you can't deny. I mean, Colby beating him and Kim back to back; those are big wins.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
And by the end of the fight, Maia was a bloody mess. You know what I mean? Like you can't take that away from him. And I know Tyron doesn't really want to fight Colby because he doesn't like Colby's shtick. The way he's building himself up. But here's my thing.
Well, I think Woodley's more trying to get the big fight. Right?
Well, yeah, and I don't blame him for that.
No problem with that.
Tyron, here's the thing. Tyron's had kind of a love-hate relationship with fans, you know what I mean? Like, some people love him, and he's had, some whatever. I think if he fights Colby, man, that's a guarantee people are going to be on his side. Because, no one is on Colby's side right now. So it's you want to turn people
The one
around.
thing I do think about the Colby matchup for him is, Colby could bring a lot of attention to the fight. And I think it's a really, really good matchup for Tyron. Probably the best matchup he's had. And, I mean, he's beat these other guys, but I think that's the easiest matchup out there for him. I mean, Colby's not going to be able to wrestle with him, I don't think. At least not out-wrestle him. And again, Colby's striking is horrid. It's some of the worst striking in the UFC. You got outstruck by Damian Maia.
Yeah, that is not the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think Damian Maia went back to Brazil and got his black belt in Muay Thai. I mean,
The K1 champ is the quote of the show.
it's K1 Maia.
Yeah.
That's his new name.
K1 Maia.
Damian K1 Maia.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out this weekend, though. See who gets a title shot. You know what I mean?
Damon, your boy Mike Perry trained at American Top Team in Orlando at one point.
Oh, okay.
I knew that I had seen his name associated, but I guess
What, did
there's
he just go down there for a week, or did he train there at camp? Or?
no at Longwood in Orlando. It's an American Top Team affiliate.
Ben Saunders.
Yeah, so the main
Saunders
headquarters is down in.
Is it Ben Saunders
Coconut
owns
Creek.
it? Or?
I think he's one of the main people, yeah.
But now I guess Mike Perry's working out at the UFC gym in Orlando. They had one of those in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, they got him all over now.
I know, not in Columbus.
Have you been to the new? Have you been to the Performance Institute yet?
Yeah, a bunch of times.
How is it?
I mean, it's cool. There's a nice big gym and a lot of good people there. I mean, you got the physical therapy, you get free food, you get the little sleep room things, sleep pods. The strength and conditioning coaches are good. That's what I went there for. Just to, that's part of the world that I have interest in, and so I talked to those guys a lot. Learned a lot about how they do things. They have a lot of scientific, technological stuff there. So, yeah, it was a good time, man. I learned a lot of stuff. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing for the fighters. Unfortunately, it favors those in Vegas. That's the only
But I mean, that's like Ngannou.
I mean, you put it anywhere, and it's going to favor whoever's there. So
Ngannou moved to Vegas, so that's where he trains now. Like that's his home spot.
I heard Vegas moved to Ngannou.
I know Kelvin Gastelum went out there for his last camp. Like he went out there for the entire camp. Which
I'm surprised people do that. It's strange, but
yeah.
Maybe it's just like some people they're just not great at managing their money.
Well, if
like
you think
Donald
about
Cerrone, he's just like, I'm just going to go live at the Institute for a while. You know
Well,
what I mean?
if you think about it, because I know, I hear all the time about how expensive a training camp is. You know what I mean? Like, if you weigh the cost of okay, let's rent an Airbnb for 2 months.
Yeah, right.
Well, the thing is, there at the institute, they don't have sleeping.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying.
So you still have to get a hotel.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's say you
Okay.
get an Airbnb for 2 months, like an Airbnb for you and 2 coaches or whatever, and you stay there. Let's say that's X amount. Let's say it's a couple $1,000s for a couple months. You know what I mean? Like you rent it for whatever Airbnb. The money you save though on food and having all the stuff in one facility,
else is there, yeah.
Everything's free. You get physical therapy. You get all what I mean, all the recovery stuff. So I can imagine you could probably weigh the cost of okay, I pay $3,000 for a house for 6 weeks or whatever versus the $10,000 I would have spent at home, on food and going to strength conditioning.
Which I'll probably go out there a lot more. I mean, I'm good friends with Robert Follis, and he's opening his own gym out there now, so I'll probably go out there, stay with him at his house. And
so all that conversation about the UFC headquarters and all that, maybe leaving Vegas, none of that's true then, as far as you know. Looks like everything's status quo.
But leaving Vegas?
Yeah, because there was some conversation there for a while that maybe they weren't going to stick around in Vegas. Maybe they were going to move the operation out to Los Angeles, and people were getting concerned about that.
I never heard this. I never heard this. I have no idea, to be honest. I mean, they're certainly not moving the Performance Institute.
Yeah, right.
When I think that's their headquarters too. They have all their offices there now. So
what is like in size comparison? Because when I came out to your house in Denver, we went out to the Muscle Farm facility, which blew my mind. That's a beautiful. They just have it on point. So is it similar at the Training Institute, or is it more like health oriented?
Yeah, they're built completely different layouts, and of course the UFC Institute, like I said, has the cafeteria, with the offices and everything there. So. There's a lot of differences on that. In terms of mat space, it was probably comparable mat space, probably comparable bags, probably comparable recovery type stuff. But, Muscle Farm doesn't have some of the other things like the physical therapy. They said a cafeteria. There's certain differences, but Muscle Farm just moved their whole facility out to Burbank, actually, there right outside of L.A., and they're redoing the whole thing, and it's going to be an awesome thing out there too. So I've been out there, and they're still laying out the facility right now, and it's going to be a badass place.
So will they keep Denver open, or will that?
No, Denver's already closed down.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Man, it breaks my heart. That facility was so. You know what I'm saying? It's just so bad. Obviously, they brought all this stuff with them, but I mean, it's still such an awesome room.
It was such an awesome room, and now they have this essentially the same thing. They literally just packed everything up and moved it to the new facility out there. And
that's cool, man.
Everything's getting set up right now. We just had the Fight to Win Pro out there last week.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I called the one in Cleveland and the one here in Columbus.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah. So they had, who was on that? Eddie Cummings, I think, was the main event. Nicky Ryan, Gordon's little brother.
Yeah.
A purple belt, submitting black belts.
No kidding.
Jesus.
Those Fight to Win, it's awesome, man.
It's cool. Yeah.
The guy that runs that,
Seth Daniels. He just got his black belt yesterday.
Oh, did he? Congratulations to him, man. Seth's been real good to me, and you could see, that. I mean, it's so when you see his setup, man. He's got trucks. They bring that out. It's like the old school Kumite setup, but they're grappling. And the cool thing is, it's not like a lot of local MMA events, like when you go and you bring your kids and there's people screaming and there's beers being thrown everywhere. It's just like a lot, because on the regional circuit it gets like that.
It's
a
all
little
competitors
bit,
in their family, really.
Yeah, and then but also kids that go to the gym, that go to the kids classes, and they can go and they can see the fighting spirit of the guys that are competitors, and they can make choices one day that I might want to compete, and I can do that, especially on that stage, because win or lose on that stage, if you're somebody at a gym locally and Fight to Win is coming to your area and you consider yourself somewhat of an intermediate or whatever sort of jiu-jitsu fighter, I would look into doing it, man, because that's a once in a lifetime experience in my opinion.
Absolutely. I love Seth's show. I think it's a great concept, and I hope it keeps doing well for a long time. It's done over 50 events now.
It's pretty good, man.
Yeah, it's a great thing, man. And I mean, the guys that he's having on there with Gary Tonin and
for sure,
Gordon Ryan. I mean, these guys are just monsters, man. Best in the world.
Yeah, Gary just signed with ONE FC.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting.
Into MMA.
Tonin in MMA is going to be. That's going to be another one of these high level grapplers that's going to transition to see what he can do.
I'm not sold on. Back in the day when jiu-jitsu guys used to cross over into MMA, there was so much hype around it. You know what I mean? In the beginning. But now where the sport is, I think the only really hyped people, when a guy crosses over into MMA, guy or girl, that I get excited about are when high-level wrestlers cross over. Because I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form as offense to Gary Tonin. He's obviously phenomenal grappler. But the sport has evolved so much that those guys are no longer the Mayas and the Jacares are few and far between to where they get to that top 5 level.
Too.
They get to that top 5 level now, though. You know what I mean? Because back in the day,
and because of their wrestling. Well, Jacare, just overall athlete, striking, and
but back in the day, anytime a high level K1 guy or a high level grappler would cross over, it was all the buzz. But now, the only time I get legitimately excited is when when Logan Storley crossed over, who I think that kid is going to be a champion within the next 2 to 3 years. Former wrestler. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we all know Kyle Snyder's talked about. I mean, that would be the greatest blue chip prospect in the history of the sport.
You think he's 205 though? You think he goes? Yeah,
Snyder?
I think he makes 205.
Yeah, because the height. I think
he did 190. He did 197 in college, and that was a tough cut. But that's 8 pounds. I mean, that's a big difference. He wrestles at like 219.
And that's day of doing tournaments and stuff too. And Kyle's a very dedicated, very disciplined guy. But he wrecked the heavyweights too. This guy, man, I don't care if he's too small.
Yeah,
but like DC did. I mean, DC is the same size as
but
Kyle.
Like when Askren crossed over, like there's guys like that. But like I don't get the same.
I'll tell you the difference between Tannen though is that I think a lot of guys, those great jiu-jitsu guys, come over relying on their jiu-jitsu. And I think Tannen's going to be different. For one, he's got John Danaher, great mind, who's guiding him along the way. He's training with GSP. I think he's going to come over. And I talked to him actually. He came out to Muscle Farm and did some training, and talking to him, I said, man, when you ever going to do MMA? And he's like, I want to get my striking better and this and that. Like, his head is on his shoulders, right? Still a young kid, too. Has his head on his shoulders. And
he's not delusional about where he is.
Yeah, he's not like a Shinya Aoki that's going to come in and just try to do his jiu-jitsu or an MNR, just do leg locks or something. So I totally get your point, and I think, guys get way too obsessed or way too reliant on what they're good at, right? And don't really figure out all the ways to funnel guys like a Ryan Hall. Like, he never hasn't figured out yet at least, ways to funnel guys into his jiu-jitsu. He's just trying to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I think Tannen is smarter, more athletic, and more disciplined than that, to be honest.
My thing is,
I totally get what you're saying, though.
I think it's like, I sit there cautiously optimistic now. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day when it would happen, like, I remember, I don't know why I always bring up this guy. I kind of feel bad when I bring up this guy. Do you remember a K1 fighter named Stefan Blitz Lako? Remember him?
Yeah, he got his jaw broken by Badr Hari.
Yeah, well, he came into MMA in Pride. He came into Pride. I remember everyone's like, oh my God, this is like one of the greatest kickboxers, blah, blah, blah. And he just got, just mauled. He just got, he couldn't stop a takedown to save his life. he just got obliterated. And that was one of those wake-up calls where I'm just like, dude, you cannot come into this sport anymore with one discipline and think you're going to win. I'm excited for a Gary Toner or Gordon Ryan or any of these high-level guys to come over, but what's that one? Dylan Dennis, the guy, Connor's boy. Awesome. Let me see you win a few fights and actually win some stand-up fights.
I totally. I'm not going to even argue with that at all. But Dennis and Tannen, again, two completely different levels.
Oh, absolutely.
Tannen is so much better, and nobody is going to roll with Tannen.
No.
Right. So if he has a decent stand-up game, again, if he can funnel guys into that game, or have a good enough game where he, that's just a threat that you have to avoid. Like Ortega, we know, avoid his jiu-jitsu, but here he is attacking, in the jiu-jitsu with the stand-up, and, he's funneling guys there. That's the whole key, right? That you funnel guys to your strength.
But if somebody said to me, Gary Tonen's crossing over to MMA or Jaden Cox is crossing over to MMA.
Of course,
I would be like, "Oh my God, Jaden Cox!" It's like Ed Ruth.
I think one of the big differences there is a wrestler can pick up jiu-jitsu way faster than a jiu-jitsu guy can pick up wrestling.
Oh my God, it's not close.
Right? You have to, jiu-jitsu can work for many different body types that still applies to MMA. In wrestling, your body type to go to jiu-jitsu or to MMA, you have to be an offensive wrestler. Just a defensive, if you're just a defensive guy, that blocks shots and, does a lot of down blocking and stuff, it doesn't really help you in MMA because nobody's going to try to take you down. They're just going to try to knock you out, right? So, but pretty much all of jiu-jitsu applies to MMA.
That's why that's why not only because Kyle Snyder is, in my opinion, going to be a 2-time gold medalist, world champion, best wrestler in the world right now. The reason why I think he transitions into MMA and becomes a champion whenever the hell he wants is he's such an offensive wrestler. He's a takedown machine. He is not a defensive guy.
The greatest wrestlers in the world, he gets in on their legs and he's fucking taking them down.
Yeah,
it's insane.
He had the match against the Russian, the
Iranian.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just unbelievable. But yeah, you're right. Not every wrestler is built. When you watch even college, when you watch folk style, you watch freestyle. Some guys you can look at and say, this guy would not do well in MMA. His style is not built. They're very defensive, more of catching you on Euro takedown, reversals, things like that.
A lot of guys, there's tons of guys that get 1 point in wrestling and stall.
Yeah.
So
but then a guy like Snyder is not that guy.
No. And there's guys that use the push outs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different styles.
So
Some guys are
there's a-
riders. Some guys
Yeah.
just ride. Like, they're not good at all on the feet. Some guys are good mat wrestlers.
So I don't want to. I'm not trying to downgrade, Tonan's prospects. I'm just saying, like, I'm cautious with
So
anybody making
now,
that.
Now, with all that said, we've got this breakdown. I think that Tonan is going to be able to pick up the wrestling and be an offensive fighter,
Well,
because I think he's an offensive minded person too.
Tonan's also in the right place. He's in one championship
Yes.
where they have. I'm not saying this is. I'm not a dig at all. They bring their guys up very slowly. Like, they're not going to put him in there with, I don't know what weight class he's going to be at, but they're not going to put him in there with, like, the best guys at 155 or 170 right away. They're not going to throw him to an Askren. Obviously, Ben's retired, but you know what I mean. Like, they're going to give him. You're going to see him take on some guys in the beginning where you're like, okay, this guy probably shouldn't be in there with him. But
Possibly, one FC is one of the, I don't follow it nearly as much as UFC or Bellator or whatever, but if they're anything like Pride used to be, and the way the Asians are, like, they'll throw him to the fucking wolves on day one.
doubt.
Just like, let's see what happens. Let's see if he can live through this.
I think they're going to be a little bit more like, they want him to develop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They want him to develop.
Well, now that Askren's gone, they're looking for a big star.
Well, you don't. That's the UFC. Like, I was arguing with some people online over the weekend about Mackenzie Dern, who picked up a win last week, and I said,
Oh,
UFC
she did. I didn't even know she fought.
I said,
That's
yeah, she's
awesome.
in Invicta now. And
hot.
I said the UFC needs to bring her in now, and everyone's like, she's not ready. She's not ready. I said, I understand. She's like 5-0, and she's her striking is still kind of suspect, but you bring her in and you put her on, like, the Paige Van Zant plan. You put her on, like, where she's going to be fighting 3 people who probably shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Because you just always run that risk, because eventually if she stays in Invicta, they're going to put her against, because there are absolute UFC level fighters in Invicta. And if she loses, then it all goes away. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you have to feed her to the shark. She doesn't have to take on, Joanna Jędrzejczyk tomorrow. You know what I mean?
But then a lot of people think that I don't, one loss and it's all gone, and like Paige lost and she came back and she's got the hype again.
Well, look at
losses
Tisha
are
Torres.
good for her.
Tisha Torres was fighting Rose Namajunas and Paige Van Zant in her second and third professional fights. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, like, you can't give Mackenzie Dern time to develop, but Mackenzie Dern has star potential, and I just think you're wasting. You're not. She can have those same Invicta fights in the UFC, and you're starting to build her fan base.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You start building her to where, and then eventually, maybe when she is 10-0, then you start throwing her a top 15 competition.
Right.
Are you going to tell me? And look at the UFC matchups and some of the fighters, and I'm not insulting anybody. I'm just saying, you're telling me there's not 3 or 4 lower level strawweight fighters that you couldn't throw in there and think Mackenzie Dern is going to submit this person. I mean, come on now. Like, let's be honest about it. You know what I mean? Like, look at Ngannou is a great case, because outside of Curtis Blades, who is a pretty solid fighter, he beat him early on. But when you look at the rest of the guys, I think Ngannou's 6-0 or 7-0 in the UFC right now. He fought Arlovsky.
They fought before the UFC?
Who?
Ngannou and Blades?
No, they fought in the UFC. But it was like Blades' like second UFC fight. He's gotten a lot better since then.
Well, you said Ngannou was...
No, I'm saying, like, Ngannou in the UFC, like, his 7 opponents, I think. It's like Overeem obviously is the best one.
Okay.
He beat Arlovsky, at this point in Arlovsky's career, no offense, he's not the same Arlovsky as even 2-3 years ago. He beat Curtis Blades, which is solid. Then he beat a lot of guys where you're like, probably not.
And even Overeem with a big win to, one of the best strikers in the UFC heavyweight division, they've always been chinny.
And
against a powerful guy.
Stylistically, it was a much more favorable matchup than putting him in there with, like, a Verdum.
Absolutely.
Or a Velasquez or something like that.
We
Definitely Velasquez. Verdum, yeah. Okay. We could talk about that, but
or even
hypothetical.
You could even say, like, a Mark Hunt who has a freaking chin. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't knock him out, but Hunt also. Every fight's different. You know what I mean? Every fight's set up a certain way. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Ngannou,
That's why we talk about it, right?
Ngannou, but you would say the heavyweight division is not as deep as other divisions. Once you get outside the top 10 or whatever, and that's fine. But
Top 5, really.
Ngannou had 4 or 5 fights where he was able to build himself into where he's getting some hype.
Yeah, your point stands.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about Mackenzie Dern. Why not? Why not bring her in? And that's what I
They
said
said they're
with
going to
Tonin.
do that with Tonin.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man. I think Tonin's going to get the wrestling down good. I think he's going to develop
I'm
into a good striker.
I'm excited when I say I'm cautiously optimistic.
That's
your
point stands. I think Tonin may be one of the exceptions where
I hope he is.
Yeah, to argue against.
I hope he is.
People think her accent's
I think he
fake.
will.
Huh?
People think her accent's fake.
Who's?
Mackenzie Dern?
Uh-huh. They think she fakes her accent.
Her
I tell you,
father,
the underground, they're so vicious.
her father's Brazilian.
Underground's
Like,
awesome.
her
We
father-
could just do a podcast just on the underground, like just read the threads and like. Oh,
Well, I was
yeah,
thinking
dummy.
like we should do like the best thread of the show or something like that, like just from the underground, just to show some like UG love. You know,
like 5 years ago, that'd probably been awesome. The underground has just turned into a shit show.
oh no, is this a
Jesus.
call to action?
Man,
I don't go on there. I don't go on there anymore. I
not at
can't.
all. Yeah,
I mean, I go on there and look a little bit, but like some of the stuff that's on there now is just like.
the otherground is I do 10 times more now,
Yeah,
just
I
because
go
it's
over there,
like
too.
it's basically like all the otherground is a bunch of Reddit threads just consolidated.
Yeah, the best ones. Yeah,
the best Reddit threads.
consolidated in there.
So I
yeah.
can either go on Reddit to like 20 different Reddit forums, or I can just go onto the otherground and get the best of. Or I know you stay off of the otherground, don't you?
I go on there occasionally.
They love Trump on there, man. They love.
Yeah. Well, I'm on everything, like always on that website. So you know, I'm easy to find on there.
It depends
It's
on
Loper MMA if you guys want.
Here's the thing about the underground. It depends on what the subject is, because there's some stuff they put on there where I still crack up laughing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
with
it's
some of the
best.
threads
Yeah.
on there where I just absolutely die laughing. And then there's other times where it's just like, this is just really mean-spirited, like trolling, you know what I mean? Like, come on, you know, like, it's like,
Don't
So
ever
one thing
post
with-
anything emotional.
I was thinking about asking
your
you
ass
about on the radio show we did earlier today, but man, so what do y'all think about this Keaton Jones thing?
Oh, so the Keaton Jones thing is kind of crazy,
Dude,
you know?
this has gotten deep, right?
Yeah, it's
Have
got
you
really
heard
deep.
about this
This
shit?
kid was getting bullied. He was a young man that survived cancer. He was getting bullied at his school.
He had cancer. I thought it maybe
Brain tumors, and they had him
Okay, yeah,
removed. And
okay.
all these like terrible.
I could tell that something was done,
scars.
but I couldn't tell. I didn't know what it was.
People were putting their hands in his shirt during lunch, just fucking with this guy to no end, right? So Joe Schilling reaches out to the mother.
but it was a troll. It wasn't actually his mother.
I wasn't. It was. They
You're
found
certain
out
of
it
this?
wasn't.
It's all over.
But he put out a video yesterday, and he was basically saying she only wanted money for like Christmas presents. They were directing him to retweet a link to
GoFundMe.
her GoFundMe, but it wasn't the GoFundMe that everybody was raising money for the bullying thing. It was for Christmas presents. So he sent out a video, and he was like, "Hey, just to give everybody a heads up, it's kind of like a bullshit deal."
But it
Which
wasn't
the-
actually her. It wasn't his mom. They found he talked to some random account. He wasn't talking to her.
So what did he?
I have
did he
no idea.
apologize
I know
over
that he took that video down.
Yeah.
Oh, he did take it
Yeah.
down. Okay, so then there you go.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But there's all kinds of rumors, like people were
But
on
the
her
rebel
Facebook.
flag
Yeah, they're like
thing.
the mother.
Well, I think that was confirmed, though, right? It was.
Yeah.
They went back and found him with the rebel flag, and which you got to take that however you take it. I mean, some people consider that like, oh, rebel flag racist. Some people
Right.
are going to say,
where were
you
you?
get-
Were you at a NASCAR race? Like, where were
Well,
you?
they were. I think the thing was they were, because it was about the NFL players kneeling, and they were
Sure.
saying, "I stand for my flag," and they had an American flag and a rebel flag. They're deep South people, and that was what I think the sister had tweeted. They said, "Look, my mom's not a racist; she's just a strong Southern woman." Which I don't know. I'm not a Southern person, even though I might sound like it, but I'm not a Southern person. I don't know.
I mean, I
what
grew up
that
in the South my
means.
whole life, and I mean, it's definitely prevalent. I mean, I'm
But
from
is
South
it-
Florida. Like,
but
you know what I mean? Like, not even like the real South. Like.
But is that okay? So I see someone with the rebel flag. Okay, they're certainly racist.
I mean, I don't
Is it-
know
is it
about
that simple?
I just think it's people
Is
that
it?
are it's not that simple. There's people that are from the South that rock it, that are probably less socially aware than other people. Like, they just choose to ignore the fact that it's offensive to other people, but they feel that it is the right that they have as a Southern American to rock that flag. And some people just look at it as kind of like a Dukes of Hazzard homage that aren't exactly in tune with. See, I haven't lived in the South. It's really come under fire in the last 5 years,
See,
right?
I don't think-
mean, that
Yeah,
people are really
especially
like,
in the last
let's
since
get it
the
outta
church
here.
shooting thing.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I don't think anyone that rocks a Confederate flag is necessarily racist, but I think people who do rock the flag need to do a little bit more research to find out what it actually stood for. Like the people who are
Right.
arguing today saying that the Civil War wasn't about slavery when it absolutely was about slavery, you know what I mean? Like you have to you wouldn't no one would rock a Nazi flag and say, I just love Germany. You know, I'm German. This is my representation of Germany. No one would do that because
Good point.
there's such a strong connotation with that flag that you know better. You know what I mean? And I think we've kind of been desensitized to it a little bit because the Civil War was, what is it, 150 years ago? We're a little more desensitized to it at this point. There's so much other stuff has happened to where it's like we've kind of, it's a joke, but like in the movie Clerks 2, when he's like, I'm taking it back, he's like, they're taking it back from like what it's supposed to mean. So I don't think everybody who automatically rocks the Confederate flag is a racist, but it is absolutely a symbolism of racism, of the Civil War, of slavery. And so like
it's hard in this day and age with social media, obviously TV, it's hard to not be obvious that people are going to take that as racist, right?
Yeah, I think
it's hard to forgive someone.
Well, I had a picture of me from 18 years old, like I went backstage and met Charlie Daniels. Like this is some kind of justification. And so I'm rocking a bandana and a shirt that has a rebel flag on it. And I posted it online. And
that was 20-something years ago?
Yeah, it was.
And that certainly that's before social media and the social justice warriors and this constant, like you could do that and you weren't, lambasted for it.
I definitely
right?
didn't mean it that way. You know what I mean?
Didn't mean it, but I mean, you wouldn't have known that it meant anything different. Again, in this world, how do you not know that that's exactly the way people are going to take it?
Yeah, we were overly influenced by the Dukes of Hazzard, Damon, I'm telling you.
I think it's just one of those things where you just have to I'm not one of those people I think everyone is a little bit too much PC, a little bit too much overly sensitive. Like I remember, I'll never forget when I want to say it was when Carrie Fisher passed away. And Steve Martin put out a tweet and said, I met her and she was a gorgeous woman. And then I got to know her and she was one of the most intelligent, smartest women ever. And people went nuts saying, why'd you have to comment on her looks? And I was like, people, calm the fuck down. Like, that's not that big of a deal that he complimented her. Like, and he had to go on this apology tour. And I'm like, this is so dumb. So there's a level to it. You know what I mean? But something like the Confederate flag, and I don't want to turn this into a big debate, but that's one of those things where I think you have to be a little bit more sympathetic. You know what I mean? If you're not a black person, African American person, you can't say how offended they aren't by this symbol of racism.
Right. Yeah. Safe bet. Don't rock it. Yeah. I do have a bit of news. Badahari coming back in March.
I knew that.
To fight Rico Verhoeven.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's real fucking cool.
Yeah.
Badahari's just one of those outlaws, dude. a real life outlaw. You don't know what the fuck is going to happen with that guy.
That's the dude. Badahari is the guy that one day you expect. I swear to God, he is Lee Murray of this era. You expect him to knock out a fighter on Saturday night. And then Sunday, you heard about he was in a heat style shootout with cops in the middle of a bank run. That's what Badahari is. You just don't know what to expect with this dude.
So unpredictable and just fun to be a fan of that guy, somewhat, I guess. Yeah, depending on what he does. But yeah, that's going to be Rico Verhoeven is a guy that I think he's a young guy.
Badass
stallion. I mean, can anyone beat him?
Stallion.
I mean, we'll see, dude. I mean, the guy's he's not a regular horse in the pasture field, man. That dude is he's the guy. He's the alpha of that whole Glory organization. I mean, the heavyweight champion, the man.
He was talking about crossing over to MMA, and then he decided to stick with kickboxing a little bit longer.
Ooh, what about him versus Ngannou? Wouldn't that be nuts?
Dude's nasty.
Yeah, I mean, Saki, he's here too, man. So
yeah. He was supposed to fight coming up, but he got injured. So,
do you enjoy Glory? You like Glory,
of
right?
course,
a little bit. Yeah,
fucking love Glory.
Yeah, Glory's great. I mean, the clinching, the elbows, and all that.
I mean, that's annoying, but it's a different sport. So
it is a different sport. And that's a cool way to look at it, right?
Yeah, Muay Thai and kickboxing are different sports. Period. I want to make my own sport with just elbows and knees.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Just clinch the whole time, elbows and knees.
Yeah, call it
no
stubs.
Punches. No punches, no kicks.
No. Hey, did you fist that guy? Point deduction. None of that over here. You seem like you got an update. What do you got,
before we get out of here, I was going to have a couple of the fan questions for Matt.
Oh, yes.
Let's see.
Getting
what was one of the questions?
That's right.
Somebody asked who you're eyeing as an opponent, which obviously we know you haven't decided whether you're going to fight or not yet.
No, Damon Martin.
It's because you can't pick fights anymore, Matt. Just stop.
You only win the big ones. I get all the little ones. My statistically.
They want to know what you think of the possibility of Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier 2. I love that fight. I hope it happens.
Interesting. I never thought about that.
I'd like to see it.
It's a great idea. I like it.
Somebody else asked, would you ever consider once MMA is done, would you ever consider transitioning into boxing? That's an interesting question.
I would. I'd love to, man. I've thought about it before, but at this point, it doesn't make a lot of sense. At 37 years old, I'll be 37 next month. That's an awful old age to be coming into a speed reaction sport.
Do you see Chris Lytle's doing bare knuckle boxing now?
Yeah, which is cool, and I'd totally, maybe I should go fight Chris Lytle in that. That'd be cool, right?
Yeah, that would be cool. And bare knuckle boxing.
But I'll tell you, man, I'm not the type to do anything at a quarter or half, even 3/4 level. I got to go 100% if I'm doing this to be a champion, man. And I think I could do very well in boxing, but at this point, I couldn't compete with the top guys, the Sergey Kovalevs and the guy Andre Ward, who I guess retired, but he'll probably he'll come back. But guys like that, I mean, why would I want to go in and be number 10 in the world?
Well, that's why I know you said when we talked about you coming back or not coming back from fighting, it's like the same thing. You said, I don't want to come back just to be a guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to come back just to be the number 10 ranked welterweight and fighting. You could fight a million guys, but if you come back, you want to fight because you want to be a champion.
Exactly.
I
That's
get
the way
it.
I
I get it.
Because if that's not what my body is able to do right now, then I'll be a champion of something else. I'll have a gym.
Yeah.
Be a champion of training others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be successful whatever I do because I put everything I have into whatever I do. So I don't I don't want to put a little bit into it. You know what I mean? And I don't
it's cool if that's your thing. You just want to I want to box. I want to say I boxed. You know what I mean? Cool.
And it's hard.
I mean, there's some fun things I could do. Like me and Chris Lytle could fight BKB and fucking probably be a blast. I'm sure.
BKB is
that's what it's called. Bare knuckle boxing.
I got it. I just love that we're breaking it down now.
No, that's the name of the organization.
I love it. I love it.
And it's really ridiculous. They put boxing gloves on, and then they just have the opening for the knuckles, so it's not actually bare knuckle.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm not even sure if the knuckles land.
It's like crotchless panties.
Very much like crotchless panties.
You're like,
that's
what are we
exactly
doing here?
Yeah.
The point of panties is crotch.
Yeah.
That's where
that's a great point, bro.
Melvin Gillard did bare knuckle boxing. Like he was in that organization.
Yeah. See, and that's something fun. That's a niche thing you do. Make a couple bucks and you just have.
Well, I know you said you would love to do Muay Thai too. You know what I mean? Like that's always been a passion.
I've always wanted to do Muay Thai even before I was in the UFC. That's what I wanted to do originally, but there's no money, and I was like, and everybody's doing it. I could go sign up for an MMA fight over the weekend and have get a fight where Muay Thai I got to wait a couple years till someone coincidentally comes around and here you go, you get a Muay Thai fight.
That's kind of wild that it even works out that way, well, especially in the Western
world.
Or
maybe you go to California, there's things out there.
Yeah.
I mean, just not in Ohio. I mean, I did like some Sanshao fights just because I wanted to do kickboxing. I didn't even know what Sanshao was. The guy actually told me that it was Muay Thai, and then I got taken down. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" I just found the video. I just found it the other day, the DVD. And I happened to have a $20 DVD player, so I hooked up the TV and plugged it in. And I mean, I'm looking at the ref like, "What the fuck is he doing? What is this?" And he ended up. I'll just tell you the whole story. So he comes out. My hands are up. I'm standing in a Muay Thai stance, and he comes and takes me down, and stand up, look at the ref, what are you doing? Okay, whatever. Okay, we'll take that one. We'll go again. Takes me down again. Again, I look at the ref. What are we wrestling? So they had no punches or kicks been thrown yet, right? So the third time, I put my hands down. I get more in a wrestling stance. Now the guy kicks me in my face. And I was like, what in the hell is this? So anyways, I ended up surviving. The guy, he was like 9-3. It was my first kickboxing fight I ever had. It was Scott Shealy's show. And, I ended up surviving. And then I remember that night, I had to go to work. It was like I was working third shift at this place called Marzetti's.
Oh my God! Somebody that used to work with you there ran into me at my son's wrestling meet
nice.
over the weekend. He's like, "Hey, let me ask you a question. Matt Brown used to work at the salad dressing place Marzetti's." I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I thought that was him, man. Yeah, he was a badass worker too. I was like, what?
I was, dude.
Knocking out red dressing right and left. Nobody stood a chance.
What was his name? Do you remember?
I don't remember his name, unfortunately. But
I remember the first time I saw a Sanshou match. I was at a K1 event, and it was Kung Lee. Because Kung Lee's like the Sanshou.
Only Sanshou fighter in the world.
Yeah. And they're like, this is Sanshou rules. And I was like, okay. And so he comes out and like throws a bunch, and he just keeps fucking throwing this dude on his head. Like, you don't go to the ground. You just throw them to the ground, and then they get back up. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? Like, I had never heard of Sanshao before.
It's an
like
amazing sport.
It was like 1, 2, wham!
And Kung Lee actually brought it a lot of notoriety. In China, I think some is due to Kung Lee. The Sanshao has grown into a very large sport over there. Actually, it's very popular now, and there's some money to be made over there fighting Sanshao. And there's some ridiculous guys that have learned a lot of Greco-Roman style throws and stuff over there. Fucking dude, you look it up on YouTube, man. You'll find some guys doing some amazing tosses and throws, and it's a beautiful sport, man. Just an amazingly beautiful sport.
That's awesome, man. I want to give a shout out to my son who went 4-1 this weekend in wrestling, Jaden Loper, and my daughter Kaylee, who won second all around in gymnastics. I know they check out the podcast, so I want to give them a little shout. But is there anything else we need to get to?
Family of athletes over here.
Well, for right now, we're doing well, man. We got 2 more on the way, so hopefully.
You're the one struggling over here with your broken arm and shit.
Yeah, my shoulder surgery.
You got twins on the way, Loper? Is that what you said? 2 more on the way?
Well, I got 2 more behind Jaden and Kaylee.
I'm joking. I heard 2 more on the way. I was like, oh, Loper, got twins.
I'm taken care of, bro. I'm off the market,
No, what I always hear of Marzetti's, it's funny, is I was telling the story of your story. The only reason I always remember Marzetti's is because I remember when you told the story about going to the concert where Dimebag got shot. I remember you were telling me you got off work at Marzetti's. I don't know why that always stuck in my head.
Well,
we just passed the anniversary.
14 years.
Yeah, just the other day. 13 years.
13?
Yep. I actually missed work that day because
that's what it was.
Yeah, I was on a point system, and I got to work like a minute late. And you get a point. I was like, all right, well, fuck it. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, I always remember that story. I don't know why Marzetti sticks in my head, but I always remember that story.
And that's why you never, ever get to work early, kids. Because you could miss a Damage Plan concert, and it could be the very last one.
It could be.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
Sadly.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
That's a sad thing, man.
That is a sad thing. But
it clicked in my head because I remember I think it was Jamie Josta actually posted, tribute to Dimebag. I was like, oh my God, it's been that long.
Oh man, Instagram was blowing up with that this week. I mean, people love Pantera, people love Dimebag Darrell. It was cool to be at Rock on the Range. Was it this year or last year? Last year, when Hell Yeah came, because that was the first time Vinnie Paul had been in Columbus since Damage played at Alvaro Sevilla when Dimebag got killed. Yeah, pretty special stuff. And thanks to everybody who listens to the show. We just got a really nasty message on Instagram from Mark Coleman. He said that he for sure blames Damon Martin for not being invited in today.
Oh, listen to this.
I let Damon take all the blame for that, by the way. Like, everybody didn't know that.
This.
And I said, yes, champ, it was probably for sure Damon. So I think we're going to try to get Mark Coleman in here.
Yes.
Next week. So we'll see if the champ will arrive. Matt Brown, dude, I don't want to let you leave the state, man. Wish we could see you next week, but hopefully we'll see you before too long.
We will see what happens. This guy, I got a few questions on Twitter too, I guess.
Okay, you want to ask one?
Well, they were asked to me.
All right.
They wants me to play a Christmas song on guitar.
Oh.
Should I do this? Well, you got to tell me what Christmas song.
You got to get a guitar here first.
Does Dimmu Borgir have a Christmas song?
The new Cradle of Filth, I think, has the Jingle Bells on it.
Okay, there you go. I am Santa Claus. Any other
that's when you know.
tweets?
That's when you know we need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Any other fan-worthy tweets?
We'll tweet more later. As for now, we got Damon over here humming Iron Man, so we gotta get the fuck out of here.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Matt Brown at I Am the Immortal. You can check out all of his training and combat equipment. ICE, Immortal Combat Equipment. Check out Damon Martin at nerdcoremovement.com for everything television, comics, and nerd culture. Check out my radio show. We do it 5 days a week with Randy Razor, Loper, and Randy.com. Randy with an I, and subscribe to my blog channel. See you next week. Fight Society Podcast. Thank you, guys.